Like the beam, because it's time for Nerdy for 30, the podcast where we talk about nerdy-ish movies for 30-ish minutes. My name is Kevin Bauer, a.k.a. the Critics' Choice. With me, as always, is the People's Champ, Tim Cack.
If you feel it, chase it, baby.
If you feel it, chase it. And today, we are talking about the much-maligned Borderlands movie. Tim, we saw this last night, but just for the listener, what did you think of this bad boy?
You said much maligned. I'm ready to malign it. I did not enjoy it. It's bad. It's not a good movie. Part of me kind of liked it the same way I liked Rebel Moon, which is that it is all empty calories and bullshit. It looks kind of cool and it's kind of a fun group, but at the end of the day, you know, you're eating celery, you know, you're burning more calories than you're consuming watching this thing. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it. Kevin, I take it by your many yawns during this thing that you are in the same bandwagon as me. What did you think of Borderlands?
Oh, dude, I had a rough ride watching this one. My one sentence summary is the director of the Hostel franchise brings 2 more hours of torture to audiences. I don't even know where this thing went wrong. The whole thing, the vibe that I got from this movie is we have Guardians of the Galaxy at home. Like, clearly it was so inspired by those movies. And yet, for everything that it got right, there was so much more that just didn't click. And it's kind of fascinating to think about why it didn't click. I mean, we talked about this briefly, but we did try to save most of this for on air. This cast is incredible. Allegedly, the first draft of this thing was written by Craig Mason. In a way, yeah.
Maybe not for this, but it is a stacked cast.
It is
lots of talented people in this.
There really is. I mean, like, it's wild that like Jamie Lee Curtis signs on for this. It's wild that Cate Blanchett signed on to star in this movie. But as we talked about, this could be one of those situations where these people who are not connected to these things that we love, these nerdy, geeky things that we love and have the ability to discern between, I think it all just looks the same to them. And so they have no idea what they're signing on for and whether or not it's a good idea to sign on for it.
I think we also discussed the idea of a bait and switch potentially. I mean, I heard rumors out there that there was a very good script for this, and then Eli Roth got his hands on it and kind of changed everything. And maybe they signed on before that and just kind of went with the flow. But I agree with you too. I think Jamie Lee Curtis is looking at this like, you know, I don't really understand it, but people like these things. I didn't understand everything everywhere all at once, and that did well. You know, Cate Blanchett's like, I didn't understand Thor, but here I am again, kicking ass, looking great. Cate Blanchett I get because she's a shining star amongst the pile of turds in this, and I'll take Cate Blanchett any way I can get it. Honestly,
she's really good.
I think my biggest beef right away with casting. Why is Kevin Hart in this?
Oh, you want to see? I kind of liked Kevin Hart. I just wanted them to do something else with this character. My answer for why is he in this is I think it probably looked really different when he signed on.
I think his character in this script would be better played by like a serious action dude. He doesn't have that many options to be funny in this.
Yeah.
He doesn't really get to do Kevin Hart stuff. And he's tiny for a kick-ass soldier, right? I get it if it's Jumanji or something like that, and it's a bit, but it wasn't really a bit. He was taken seriously as a stone cold killer, and I don't know why you would cast Kevin Hart as that. Right away, the movie gets off to a terrible start when he rescues this girl, Tiny Tina, and he breaks into her cell and he's wearing like a costume, and he immediately like rips off the helmet and is like, oh, you can't breathe in those things. Knock off stormtrooper outfit, like immediately undercuts the reality. The first thing we get as we're entering this world is that it's a joke and a knockoff. And even the narrator is like, yeah, I thought that was all bullshit too and stuff. Like nobody has bought into this. So why would I buy into this? Why would we buy into this as an audience? They don't care. Why should we? It's a rough start.
It's weird because I mean, we just talked about Deadpool. We did all the Deadpool movies, and with something like that, it works, I think, because Deadpool is explicitly talking to the audience the whole time. Like, Deadpool is narrating the movie to the audience. Deadpool, as the character, is also always aware that he's speaking directly to the audience. So at any point in time can just turn and break the fourth wall. So I think that helps audiences be in the world still in a way, because that's what you're expecting from the entire project. Whereas in this, when people are undercutting the world, but they're supposed to be fully living in the world at the same time, it just doesn't work.
It doesn't work. You have to establish a base reality, right?
Mhm.
Like Peter Quill can make jokes if everyone else in the scene is taking it seriously.
Yes.
Right. He's interacting with an alien in an alien marketplace where all of them are acting like they're real aliens in an alien marketplace.
Well, and
right?
that's also a key differentiator there, is that he is the only human from Earth who has Earth as a base reality to draw reference from amongst all these aliens that are more used to this alien climate. So he is the audience surrogate in that way. And the comments and jokes that he's making are the same things that we are thinking.
It's weird that he's the audience surrogate when Cate Blanchett is the protagonist of this story.
Mm-hmm.
She is the driving force. She's the kick-ass cowboy. And her character is very strange, but she's also making sarcastic jokes and taking everything lightly. Like, it comes as easily as it goes. She's just trying to get this, keep her head down, get this stuff done. And, she's cracking jokes, but Kevin Hart's also there cracking. I think this would have worked way better if we get, we just watched Alien. If we've got, the guy with the cigar in his mouth saying, "Welcome to the core," kicking ass and like big arms, big guns, taking names, like taking this very seriously and militantly. I think that works better in this movie with this script than Kevin Hart does. No shade to Kevin Hart. I mean, I feel like the rug probably got pulled out from under him with this script or with the way this movie turned out.
Totally agree. I think that's a bigger thing too. Not everybody can be funny. Like, every single character in the crew can't be funny. It just doesn't work. You need somebody who's holding the whole thing together.
Yeah. I also don't understand the fact that it's Kevin Hart. Really had Kevin Hart be in this movie a lot when I don't think he should have. For example, the movie opens with him rescuing this girl and meeting Krieg.
Mm-hmm.
And then we don't see them for 15 minutes as Cate Blanchett sets up the story. I don't think we need to meet Kevin Hart or Tiny Tina or Krieg until Cate Blanchett discovers them in the story. I don't think we get anything from meeting them prematurely and having Kevin Hart make fun of everything that's happening and not taking it seriously. And then just introducing them organically when the story introduces them. It seemed crazy. There's also a part where we pretend that Kevin Hart was killed, right? They all escape and he does a heroic thing where they have to hold two electrical wires together, and Kevin Hart, and they're trying to get out of this cave in an elevator, and the electricity is shorting out. So he takes two cables, he duct tapes them together so that they can use the elevator. And then he just stands there holding the duct taped cables together as if they weren't duct taped, just so that they can all leave and abandon him in this mine. So it's a heroic sacrifice. Immediately, that heroic sacrifice is undercut because we cut back to him crawling out from under a big pile of bodies, which, again, I don't know how that even makes sense. How did he get covered in bodies? He literally got tackled by a bunch of living things. Like, we don't even get to see the cool fight. It doesn't make sense that this would happen. You could just cut to him showing up at the end, which his big entrance at the end is just rappelling down from the sky to do fucking nothing.
It's so lame.
I don't know. So it's so lame. It's lame. There's so many awesomely lame moments in this movie where you're like, oh, this could have been something.
That one stinks too, because they call out, wow, what an entrance, in a way where the character kind of seems impressed, but it's also not super clear if this character is impressed, because this is the worst villain that I've seen since Madam Web, but we can get into that later.
Oh, the villain is so bad. But I mean, do you agree with me with all these?
Totally.
This extra Kevin? I mean, I think Kevin Hart's great. I think he's great. I think having him in this movie just really threw everything off. with this script. You know, the other characters can at least fade into the background a lot more, but Kevin Hart is like a star. You can't just walk around Kevin Hart, you know, in these movies, I think.
Yeah. This has to be a bait and switch situation. This has to be a very different script from what he signed on for, because they're just not using him in a logical way in the slightest. I mean, for all the actors, it's weird. The one who has the weirdest path through this movie, in my opinion, is Florian Munteau, who plays Krieg. Now, I consider myself one of 5 people who stan Florian Munteau. I've wanted this dude to pop off since Creed 2. Like, just strictly based off the fact that this guy is fucking huge. And, you know, when you see a huge king, you just want that guy to pop off.
Huge kings?
I will back Alan Richardson in any project he decides to go into, because that dude is big. And, like, you just love to see it, man.
We stan our jacked kings.
We take jacked kings. People are upset about it, but I'm taking the knee every time. And Florian Munteau, this is such a weird role. It sounds like also, this is late in the pod for us to get into this. Neither one of us have ever played the Borderlands games, which it sounds like might actually be to our benefit in watching this movie.
I think so.
Otherwise, it would have been an even worse ride for us, but may have cleared up some narrative questions that we have. But Florian Munteau sounds the entire movie like he is directly doing lines from the video game with the same intonation that they're performed in the game. He sounds like a video game voice actor when he's doing these lines. And it's the most jarring thing I've ever seen in my life. He's yelling things like delicious meat candy when he's looking down at like a vat of acid. Like, they all seem like these bizarre non sequiturs. He's almost just kind of doing his own thing.
Yeah, they kind of try to give everyone their own story in a way that they're not actually doing it, but they're going through the motions. Like, at the end, they give him a bigger soldier to fight.
Yeah.
And he has to overcome that obstacle, even though I don't know what he's been trying to overcome this whole time. He just seems to be goofing off and having a good time and, you know, kicking butt. It seems like I don't know if he has an arc, but his whole thing is built around loving Tiny Tina.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something, if you wanted to make him interesting, you could experiment with that relationship. You could put her at risk and have him be unable to save her or something like that, or at least have her, you know, why isn't he trying to save her from this big thing? Why is it just him by himself battling this giant monster and, you know, overcoming these odds with no stakes to anyone else around him?
Yeah.
It's very weird. What do you think of Tiny Tina? Because I think I kind of like Tiny Tina as just off on her own. I think the actress is fun, and I like the bombs and the aesthetic and the ears, and I'm just kind of digging Tiny Tina. I don't think she makes sense. I think she just kind of wanders off and does her own thing. I think she has there's like no stakes in her life. Like, everything's a joke. She just is excited to fall in some acid and doesn't seem to care about anything, but also is like supposed to be like an emotional core of this movie. It's very weird. She's strange, but I like it. I like her in general.
She kind of works. I do agree that the actor did a really good job. I think she's making choices. She's playing it in a very clear way, and she's very animated in what she's doing, which at least seems to kind of match how wacky they want to be in this movie. How old is Tiny Tina supposed to be? Is she supposed to be like 11, or are we talking like 16? Because
you're right. She is one of these like women children.
Yeah.
That is basically playing 10 years old, but is also, I mean, the actor's 16.
The actor's 16. The character's supposed to be 13.
13,
okay, so
I kind of get.
Yeah, she exists in this weird zone where it's kind of like there are aspects of her that seem like she's supposed to be like 5. And then there's aspects of her where it's like I think as a 16-year-old actor is like bringing a bigger emotional depth to it that feels at bizarre odds with, when she's supposed to be 5. The whole time it fell into the thing that we've talked about with like child actors before. Usually, I feel like usually you see this with like an 8-year-old who's playing like a 3-year-old, and you're like, what the fuck is going on here? This is the first time I've seen it happen with somebody who's like, I guess like high school age, you know? I thought it was jarring. It was really strange.
It reminds me of like Scream, you know, when the girl is sitting on her bed and there's all these stuffed animals around and she's like a high school senior and they just like play her down to make her look cutesy. I would understand too, because she is a test tube baby born and bred in a lab, that there would be some arrested development there. And that,
I could see that.
Maybe there's some sort of like a recapturing of her childhood and her youth in that scenario.
I love that explanation. I just want to see it clarified.
Touch it. That's not what they did, but that could have been cool.
Yeah. I do think that there's something interesting to the dynamic too of, but this undercuts the same thing, because I thought about in the final scene when Tiny Tina and Krieg are like celebrating with each other, I was thinking about how their dynamic is kind of a kid with the intelligence and wiliness of an adult, and then an adult with basically the brain of a child in Craig. But then Krieg, there's other parts in Tiny Tina where she does seem super young. So it's like they're also both kids. I just think they need to pick a lane. I think they need to pick whether she is 13, but she acts 5 because of the arrest development thing that you were talking about. Or if they go with a relationship with Krieg, if they lean into the fact that she's like a demolitions expert and they let her be a kid who has the intelligence of an adult, which kind of is also, that's like an aspect that we've seen with like test tube, like genetically engineered characters before. So she's like a genius level kid. And then her partner in crime is like a adult with the brain of a child. I don't know, man. They just got to make a choice.
Right. There is, because they're both kind of doing the same thing, right? Like one's a big kid, one's a little kid. They're both goofing off. They both seem to have the same level of stakes to them. They seem kind of redundant. You know, you think there'd be a bigger like contrast between the two. Like maybe he's real dumb and she's real smart. Like there needs to be something that differentiates the two. But they just wander around and all this stuff. And
Tim, you said the word stakes. I did want to bring that up too, because I don't feel like this movie had any real stakes. They tried to introduce a little bit of doubt into the audience as to whether or not Tiny Tina was going to die when they unlocked the portal in the end. Felt like a real afterthought. Felt like felt like they got to that point in the script and they were like, oh yeah, we forgot to do stakes. For most of the movie, I had no idea what anybody really wanted. I knew the MacGuffin they wanted to get, but is Cate Blanchett really just there because she wants money? What does anybody else want? What's Kevin Hart really want?
Right. What do they want? They want to get there before the corporation does, because they can keep those weapons from the corporation, I guess. I guess. But they work for the corporation, so they could have just made more money if the corporation got it, right? So why are they against the corporation, aside from the fact that it's, you know, capitalism and all that? But I mean, there's the army. He makes up this whole story about them getting kidnapped, and that's not true. So he really is just cloning these girls. Also, why don't you just keep cloning them if you can clone? If you have the option to clone a bunch of them, then just clone a bunch of them. Yeah. You know, then maybe that could be a part of it too. I mean, I don't know. I was curious if there was going to be something where it turns out she's a clone of Lilith. Maybe that would have been something interesting. Maybe Lilith's mom is still alive. Maybe there's anything like that. There aren't really any stakes from that regard. Pandora itself is marketed as the worst like shithole in the planet. I don't want to go there. It's a disaster. But really, the only threats on the planet are these raider guys and some piss monsters.
Yeah.
And the rest of the threats are all coming from this corporation. So it didn't seem like Pandora was that dangerous to me. Am I crazy? Shouldn't there be more to overcome? What else is going on there? Where are they fighting? There's not like bands of raiders moving through that they have to navigate. Our introduction to these, what are they called, berserkers or something?
Were they just
our
called
introduction
psychos?
to them, psychos. They're psychos, which is obviously the mechanic in the game, is that there's just psychos running around and all this stuff. But our introduction to them is Cate Blanchett just killing them easily. So again, no stakes in this. I don't think the planet has stakes. I don't think any of the characters have stakes. It seems dumb. I think if I have to pick a thief, it's Cate Blanchett, because I dig her whole look. I dig her whole vibe. I like her costume's great. Her guns are cool. She's doing cool stuff the whole time. I'm here for Cate Blanchett. I think I've seen the criticism online that it's interesting that the whole cast of this movie is so much older. Like, it is kind of like an older group of actors as opposed to younger actors trying to engage with younger video game fans potentially. Right? Like, what's the overlap between Jamie Lee Curtis and people that like the game Borderlands? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's there. Jamie Lee's great. And it is weird that they're talking about how old Cate Blanchett's character is, and she's hanging out with Jamie Lee Curtis, who I guess is older than her, but she's talking to people that look like in the similar age range, character-wise, but it's all about her mom, who they're all friends with, but also, I don't know. It just seemed like there were multiple things, you know? I don't know if like the story of an aging gunslinger bounty hunter necessarily lines up to me with, you know, like lost family and trying to reconnect with like your mom. Am I wrong there? Is that like it just seemed like they were doing multiple things, right?
But
Cate Blanchett's saying I'm too old for this, while everyone else is saying, you know, your mom really loved you, but also she was abandoned by her mom. And also she said she would never go back to Pandora, but yet she's the one assassin or bounty hunter being chosen by this corporation to go back there and find it. And the guy doesn't have any hunch that she might be this person if she's from Pandora. And it's like it's weird, man. The whole thing's weird and shitty.
Yeah, it's really strange. And I think it's mostly because they don't pick a lane. They don't clarify any of that. It's cool that this movie is casting older actors for it. You know, it's cool that Jamie Lee Curtis gets a chance to be in this action movie where she's shooting people. It's cool that Cate Blanchett gets the opportunity to be a gunslinger in a movie. It is strange, specifically with the choices that they make in this movie, that they are saying that she's too old for this, but then that's not actually really a detail about the character that's ever explored. It leaves you wanting. So it makes it strange, because if they just didn't comment on it at all, I don't think anybody would have a problem. Like, there's not a situation where anybody's going to be like, she can't shoot that gun. She's too old. Like, she is so good at the action in this movie that nobody would even question it. So it's strange to have the character bring this up as a detail and then to have it not be explored whatsoever. But I think maybe it's also that we're just thirsty for them to do anything with these characters. We just want to know anything about these people. Like, Kevin Hart has that whole monologue where he talks about, like, I decided to defect because I didn't want to see what happened if the corporation got this. But we have no reason to believe him. It's a really altruistic thing to do. We have to take him at his word because we haven't seen any of it. We haven't seen like a clip where something terrible happened to him. We haven't even seen a hint where something terrible happened to him or people he cares about. It's the opposite of what we talked about in Andor and Rogue One, where the whole thing they're doing in those movies is giving you a lot of background on how bad the Empire is and how unfair the universe is to live in under the Empire's rule. We get none of that with Borderlands.
You're right. There's just nothing. None of the characters have anything of depth. I mean, I'm also thinking of like, you know, I love the I'm too old for this trope.
Yeah.
You know, with like Lethal Weapon's one of my favorites. You know, you got Roger Murtaugh, and all he's saying is I'm getting too old for this. But that is the through line for his character through the whole series, is that he's close to retirement. He's doing one last job. He's just trying to make it to retirement. And now he has to deal with the exact opposite person that he would want if he's just trying to meet this goal. Like, he's just trying to get through it. And he's paired with like this fire starter who's kicking ass and getting all kinds of trouble. Like, that's enough. Like a detail like that is enough to create fun characters and fun connections. And it just seems like stuff like that is just thrown in. You're right about Kevin Hart's character, how it's all like great. Jamie Lee Curtis's character is just researching the vault. And here's something I didn't understand.
Cool.
The in order to get to the, which, like, what are you researching?
Yeah,
what is there to research? There's 3 keys. There's 1 vault. What are you dedicating your entire life? I'm here to study the vault. What are you talking about? Also, did you notice they say, maybe I'm missing something. They say there's 3 keys to the vault.
Yes.
They have one. They find another one.
Yep.
Then they have the girl. Then they put one of the keys in the ground and have the girl stand on the thing.
Yes,
I was like,
dude.
Where's the 3rd key? What is the 3rd key? Where is it? Like, just fuck off with the 3rd key. Why even tell us about this?
Huge plot hole. I was like, what is happening? Why are we doing this?
Do they combine? Did Kate Blanchett's character find the bottom half of the cone or something? They just need a scene where they're connecting them. That's it. Or just 2 spots to do the. I don't get it. I don't get how that's possible that you only use 2 keys at the end. What?
It was crazy. When Kate Blanchett like slaps down the final key, I was like, where was that? What? Like, did she get it from Ariana Greenblatt and then slap it down again? Like, did they take it out and then put it back in?
Well, what do you mean the final key? That was the same key, wasn't it?
The second key or whatever. So it was like, there was like they put a key down and then Ariana Greenblatt stood there and tried to open the thing. Whatever. Then I can't remember if they put 2 down before she stood on the thing or what. I think they might have put 2 down before she stood on the thing. But when Kate Blanchett showed up, she put another key down. They made like a big point of showing her like slamming it down onto this thing. So she had an additional key.
I disagree. I think they only put 1 key down because the design was like a wishbone. It had 1 key, and then the 2 wishbone legs went out, and that's where the person stood. And there was 1 cone at the tip, and then it all lit up. And so then Kate Blanchett takes, I assumed was the same key, and slams it down because she's slamming it down in the exact same spot in the wishbone, and then she stands there. So I don't know what happened to this 3rd key, what this is. Kate Blanchett didn't have the 3rd key because remember, these guys showed up to the site where they think the vault is, and they thought they could open it.
Yeah.
They thought they had everything they needed. So they weren't going to leave Kate Blanchett behind with a 2nd key.
Right. That's what confused me. Is because I thought
it is confusing. And she slams it down with authority.
Yeah.
In a way that was very exciting, but also, what are we doing? Like there were so many. The action at the end was so weird because she slams down this key, which we'd already seen just placed.
Mm-hmm.
And you think if it's going to slam, there's going to be like a violent response to that.
Yeah.
And there isn't. She slams it down with authority, and then it very slowly trickles out, and she slowly stands on it, and it slowly puts this vault together. It's just there's just no point in doing that way. And there are multiple obstacles she has to overcome at the end, right? She unlocks the vault. She becomes a fire goddess.
Yeah, she's good at it immediately.
And I think that's enough. I don't think we need to see the fire goddess struggle to defeat a laser cannon. She's already a fire goddess. I don't need to see the fire goddess shot out of the sky and like there's just no tension there. You know, she's already become the Deus Ex Machina in the story. I don't know why it was just weird. They could have ended like multiple times. They just like kept, and then there's this thing where we go into the vault and she's mastered the vault and she's sneaking up behind this guy. And it's just, what is this? Is this in the game? There's like no way this is in the game where you're just stealth attacking some dude in a vault. And it's just weird, man. Horrible. The whole thing's weird. And Kate Blanchett also masters teleporting immediately.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the other thing I was thinking. So there's a teleporting scene in the middle of the movie when they all escape the mine without Kevin Hart, but then he survives. And the whole group gets teleported, and Tiny Tina thinks it's her that did it. Yeah. She's very confident that she did it.
I kind of like that.
Also, I kind of like it too, but I'm also like, oh, was there something going on in her that did this? Or I don't know, whatever. It's fine. But then Kate Blanchett shows up at the end and she teleports down to the rest of the group to save them. Why can't she just teleport them all away?
My man, my fucking man. I was thinking the same thing. Take them back up to the top where the army isn't. Come back down, do your fight. Take them to safety.
Take them to safety. Come back and do all this stuff. Come back and negotiate and have them racing back to save you or something like that.
To her credit, they weren't really in danger because the whole army was down there doing jack shit. Every time somebody would show up to kind of like join the battle or something, the army stood stock still because they were being led by a bad leader. This guy that runs this thing, he's a terrible character, a very bad actor, at least in this role. It was hard to watch, dude.
He's bad, man. The lead guy was so confusing. And our introduction to him was so weird, man.
Yeah.
Where one guy introduces himself and this to me feels like, I was saying the whole time, is like, this could have been good. The whole time I'm watching this, I'm like, this could have been good. This easily could have been good. The budget it seems good. The cast is good. There's a lot of the elements are all there for you to create a good movie, and you just didn't.
Yeah.
And they have a scene where someone's asking, Lilith to take one more job, Cate Blanchett's character, and she's this like not assassin. She's like a bounty hunter cowgirl, and she just kills him instantly. And I love that. I love the idea of that. But then also one of them is alive and he starts talking, and then another guy gets up and is like, wow, I'm actually their boss, and she kills him. And then then his face is lighting up and all this stuff. And it's like pick a thing, I'm not. The idea that someone would immediately kill those people, I love. And that's something I always question in action movies, is like, this is the bad guy. You have them. You have the opportunity to shoot them. Effing shoot them,
Loved it. Loved that moment.
Just kill them. And it's cool that she does it. And immediately it seems like it's undercut by all this other stuff and people coming back to life and whatever. It's everything cool was immediately not cool in this.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah, totally agree. Listener, what did you think? Did you have the misfortune of seeing Borderlands? Let us know. Send us an email, nerdy430@gmail.com. We'll read it on our next mailbag episode, whenever that is. We haven't done one in a while because we haven't got mail. Fix that, listener. But don't go see Borderlands just because of that. You don't need to see this one. This is one of the worst ones we've covered on the bottom.
It's bad. The CGI is bad.
Oh, it's very bad.
They didn't even need the CGI in some parts. They just went out of their way to show CGI of them falling.
God, I know. It's not good. We'll be back here again next week with Alien Romulus, which I'm excited for. I think it's going to be fun. I've got high hopes for this one. We'll see you then. Until then, stay nerdy, everybody. Bye.
Stay nerdy. Bye.